Hey everyone, Matron here bringing you another StarCraft 2 commentary. This time a losers bracket matchup between WhiteRa and Dimaga in Blizzcon 2010, the 16-player invitational tournament. We have WhiteRa, also DuckloadRa, Duckload is the sponsor, spawning as the teal Protoss in the western position, and Dimaga spawning as the red Zerg in the eastern position. The map is Metalopolis, far spawning points here, so possibly see a macro game from both players. If Dimaga is able to set up a fast expansion before WhiteRa is able to block it, WhiteRa may respond with a fast expansion of his own. See, WhiteRa is preparing a pylon here. He's possibly going to wall off with his gateway and cybernetics core at the front to prevent any sort of Zergling run by. This will be the first ZVP that I cast as part of this BlizzCon tournament, so be interested to see this strategy is involved, especially from Dimaga. We'll see whether the recent Zerg buffs have altered his ZVP strategy. See, WhiteRa is doing an early scout. He's going to try to get to this natural of Dimaga before he's able to throw down the expansion. We had been seeing Dimaga do a 15 hatch into a 15 pool, so we'll see whether he's able to get this hatchery off before WhiteRa is able to block it. Out comes this drone, trying to go a little bit wide. He wanted to make sure that if WhiteRa did come into his base at that last second, he did not see that drone trying to go out down the ramp, but WhiteRa immediately gets in position and throws up a pylon going to block that hatchery. WhiteRa has thrown down the gateway, going to do a bit of a wall off the front ramp. And now we do see the spawning pool being forced to go down for Dimaga. We'll see if WhiteRa does let this pylon finish. It looks like he will. So this pylon with 370 health right now and shields are going up because the drone of Dimaga is no longer attacking. And Dimaga is going to have to get out gas instead and perhaps go for a speedling build. He needs to take down this pylon as soon as possible with his early Zerglings so that he can establish that second base. We do see the cybernetics core from WhiteRa, and he's got this small space here he's going to be able to block off with a zealot to prevent the Zergling run by. The probe's just doing more harassment as we see a number of drones are low health here. Just trying to distract the Zerg player, hoping that he'll pull off drones to try to attack the probe as it goes in and out of his base. We do see 6 Zerglings on the way, actually 8. So we'll see if they move over to WhiteRa's base or if they try to take down this pylon first. Looks like a number are going to be on this pylon, all of them in fact, and he's going to try to get up this hatchery as soon as possible. Almost 4 minutes 15 seconds into this game. That's a long time for Zerg not to be on this second base. We saw Dimaga throwing up about a 3 minute, sometimes 2:45 hatchery when we had him playing Next Genius. Or excuse me, when he was playing Maka Prime in an earlier game that I cast. So this is a very late hatchery for Dimaga. So we see that the cybernetics core has finished. The first stalkers come out for WhiteRa. He does have this block off with the zealot, perfect positioning there, and good positioning for that stalker, going to be able to take pot shots at anything that comes along the road. We see a nice pylon here, going to be able to see any sort of drops. We're also going to be able to warp down closer to the base of Dimaga. It looks like WhiteRa is throwing up another 3 gateways, and he has 2 gas going, so be interested to see what his 4th unit producing structure will be, whether he goes for a Stargate or whether he goes for a robotics facility. It may all depend on any sort of intel he's able to get off of Dimaga here. So we do see Dimaga has this tower and also good overlord positioning. He's going to be able to see anything that comes along from WhiteRa, at least at the start of here. Dimaga moving out with all these Zerglings, going to test this front door of WhiteRa, and he's going to find that it's closed for business. As this one Zergling comes up, it's going to sacrifice itself to the stalkers. All he sees is the cybernetics core and the warp gates and the few stalkers. We do see this army trying to push out here, going to throw down a pylon, so not much of a surround can happen. It's going to cut off access to this ramp, and now we see WhiteRa throwing down this fast expansion. So again, the positioning on this map really lends itself to a large macro game. We do see the force fields here, not a great force field. The Zerglings could run up this ramp and do some harassment on the probes of WhiteRa, but instead the Zerglings were going to try to take down those units. They were able to take down just the one Stalker, this other Stalker very low, just 4 more shots from a Zergling. So we see both players just trying to set up their economy at this point. If we look at the income tab, relatively even, 32 Harvesters to 32. The Zerg player just a little bit of an advantage. Both players running off of these 2 gas to start. It looks like just 3 gates for WhiteRa here, as he is trying to set up this expansion, and he did warp in a forge as well. Placing the pylon here so no Zergling access from this area. Doing a good job cutting off, using this forge as sort of a choke as well. So he is going to be able to limit access to this ramp with this pylon and the forge. Getting his level 1 weapon upgrade, very good idea for the Protoss player in this matchup, as you are going to be able to 2-shot these Zerglings with Zealots once you get this +1 upgrade. Otherwise it takes 3 attacks from the Zealots. But he will be able to mow through these Zerglings as soon as this upgrade finishes. We'll see what sort of tech Dimaga favors here. It looks like he's throwing down a number of spine crawlers. He's really afraid of this early pressure from WhiteRa. WhiteRa just has these 3 gateways working though, so it looks like he's just working on his economy. He did throw up a 4th gateway. Again, using these buildings to choke off, limit access from the Zerg player into his base here. We see a Spire going up for Dimaga, so he's going to be responding with some Mutalisks here. It's going to be very good against the Zealots of WhiteRa, though we see WhiteRa is favoring the Stalkers now. Taking back a little bit of map control, he's going to throw up a pylon. He's going to be able to warp in units closer and closer to Dimaga's base. Now moving along the southern road, Dimaga does not have sight down here, so he's not going to see this coming. Out come a few Zerglings. They may see these Stalkers moving out. Not sure that they did. They're going to try to take down this pylon. Is it going to be cancelled, or are we going to get some units warped in here? It looks like we're going to get that Zealot now. Level 1 weapon's about to finish. Now going to be just 2-shotting these Zerglings. We see so many spine crawlers up for Dimaga. I'm not sure that WhiteRa is going to be able to handle this many spine crawlers, especially with the Zerglings coming in. We'll try to get a force field, just not great force fields there. And it's going to have to back off from these spine crawlers. So we see Dimaga playing very, very defensive here. He is going to get up 7 Mutalisks right now. And WhiteRa is going to have to come to some sort of tech that's going to be able to push through these spine crawlers, either favoring Void Rays or perhaps going for some Immortals from the robotics facility. Now he's going to try a different angle, I believe. No, he's not. He's going to have to pull back here. So he does see those Mutalisks, so we'll see if he is going to spawn any sort of Stalkers in his base. Looks like he did that instant reaction. So he's going to try to get these Stalkers up and into position to take on these Mutalisks as he sees them. We don't yet see any sort of higher tech coming, so just these 4 warp gates. Not really sure what he's spending all of his money on right now. Mostly Stalkers. He does have 100 energy on these Nexus, so he can try to warp in much faster off these warp gates if he does some chrono boosts. Mutalisks trying to take down pylons, and he is going to sidecap WhiteRa for just a moment. But now WhiteRa has got to retreat with these Stalkers to try to take on these Mutalisks. Dimaga takes back map control just a little bit. Zerglings streaming in here, going to try to take down this pylon. A force field there, going to trap 2 of the Zerglings, but the majority of them were able to get away. And Dimaga, I know he wants that pylon. Going to have to take one more pot shot at it before it can shield back up. So we see Dimaga establishing a 3rd and 4th base here, so double expanding. So we'll see what kind of economy he's going to be able to establish here. 55 Harvesters for WhiteRa, so he's really been adding more and more probes to 47 for Dimaga, but Dimaga is now on these 4 bases. He does have an auxiliary hatchery in his main, so 5 hatches for the Zerg player. So we see WhiteRa is just going to establish this gold and try to get it up and running, and then he's going to be able to warp in a ton of gateway units. He has another Nexus coming in the center here. No more production structures, so very interesting here. Just running off these 4 gateways. Really like to see him get up another few gateways or go towards some higher tech. It looks like he's going to get some blink. So his mostly Stalker army is going to be very mobile. Blink's great against Mutalisks, as you're going to be able to chase down the Mutalisks and take down a number of them as they just try to harass. It looks like we have an attack coming up here, trying to take down this 4th base of Dimaga. These Mutalisks are reinforcing from the main Dimaga. With that splash damage, going to be able to take down the Stalkers very quickly. These Zealots are going to go down, and it looks like Dimaga is going to throw down a number of Spine Crawlers now that WhiteRa knows about this base. We see the rest of WhiteRa's forces moving in here. Stalkers moving in 2 at a time. And that might be enough Stalkers to take on the Mutalisks here. So we see another 2 Mutalisks coming from Dimaga. If he can get a decent surround with these Zerglings, he could possibly take down the Stalkers. Here come the Mutalisks from the main, and the Zerglings going to take on these Stalkers. Force fields in front, limiting the surface area of these Stalkers. Very good force fields as the Stalkers try to focus down these Mutalisks here. The Mutalisk count is going lower and lower, but some Zerglings from behind are going to be able to take down a number of Stalkers. I think Dimaga is going to be able to take this with these Zerglings helping out. Zerglings very good against Stalkers, as the Stalkers have large surface area. They can get a great surround, and Dimaga did save this base. Meanwhile, he has this 3rd base up, not yet running with full drones. He hasn't been able to drone up, as he has had to produce Mutalisks and Zerglings to try to take down these Stalkers. We do see some cannons from WhiteRa in the center here, as he tries to secure this gold expansion. Probes coming off the line, trying to take on Zerglings here, and the Zerglings just doing a great job with these Mutalisks against the Stalkers. Really need WhiteRa to get to some higher tech here. These Zerglings are going to rip through the Blink Stalkers, and the Mutalisks are just going to do so much damage with the Zergling support there. Perhaps see some Phoenix come out for WhiteRa, though he does not have the infrastructure set up. Looks like he's now going to go for some Dark Shrine action. So the Dark Shrine going to provide the Dark Templar for WhiteRa. It's going to be very good against the Zerglings. Going to one-shot the Zerglings, so perhaps some Dark Templar plus Stalkers are going to be able to take on the Mutalisk and Zergling mix. As we see these Mutalisks move out, they're going to get ready for some more backdoor harassment on WhiteRa. If we look at the probe count, WhiteRa did lose a lot of probes after he transferred them to the middle there. So down to 51, 61 for Dimaga. He's taking quite the income advantage, 1,700 to 1,300 now. Looks like these Mutalisks are not going to move in for harassment quite yet, so we may see that in just a moment. Instead, the Zerg player just swarming across the map here, taking base after base, spreading creep effectively, poking in with the Zerglings, trying to pick off a pylon here, and we see not many units left for WhiteRa, as his Blink Stalkers are going to be no match for the Zergling count and the Muto count from Dimaga. Once this cannon falls, WhiteRa is going to have the GG, as he just did not have enough unit producing structures. I'm not sure. He's now coming with some extra gateways to end the Dark Shrine there, but off of 2 bases you really have to get more than 4 warp gates so you can support it as long as your probe count is high. I'm not really sure what he was spending all his money on. Both Nexus were at full energy as well, so he really could have pushed out a lot more units, keeping his minerals pretty high right now. He could use more Stalkers to take on that Mutalisk army. So we'll see whether WhiteRa is able to do a better job macroing up against Dimaga, or maybe even just limit the access to the Zerg player of multiple expansions. Dimaga was able to expand there quite freely across this large map. We'll see which map we have for game number 2 in this best of 3 series in the losers bracket. Hopefully WhiteRa can even it up and force a game 3. I'll go ahead and cast game 2 now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.